G'day legends. Today we are going to be talking about the three biggest differences between the US and Colombia. We're going to cover a few interesting things in this video. One being that Colombia is cheaper than Ethiopia.
Wait, Colombia's cheaper than Ethiopia? Where are you finding this information?
Keep watching and you'll find out.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences between Colombia and the United States. A lot of those differences are positives. There are some that are negative.
Andrew is from the US. He's been living in Colombia for 13 years. So with that said, Andrew, can you take us straight into number one?
So the first thing that I noticed when I first got here 13 years ago in 2010 was infrastructure.
Outside of the kind of fancy areas like El Poblado, where there's high rises and modern apartments, it's not like that. Especially if you get into the more kind of middle class areas, it looks very different. You're going to know, oh my God, I'm in a different country. Because things are maybe a little bit more, I don't want to say falling apart, but I will say rustic. That's a better way to put it, right?
Yeah, there's more rustic. There's more Mickey Mousing of things.
Yeah. In the US, most things look very finished and look nice and look modern in most big cities.
Yeah.
And even if you go to the suburbs, sometimes it even looks even better. But here, you immediately see that it's raw. I think that's the best word for it, raw. This is a raw place.
Yeah.
And also in terms of road fixing and things like that, you could be walking along listening to your music, having a nice day, and then you just fall down a pothole on the side of the road, never to be seen again. Because that happens. That really happens. Have you seen that happen?
Yeah. And
Have you ever seen anyone falling down?
Yeah, I fell into one. I was walking down the street.
To get the crane to lift you out?
With my business partner. When we had the office here, we could walk to the office, and I was walking back with my business partner, and there was a open, like where the water meter is, and it was open. And I was just talking, and my whole leg was in there.
Shit.
I could have broken it if I wasn't careful. But if you're older, that could be a deterrent.
You need to keep your awareness about you. Because I know in Australia, at least, if they had a hole like that, immediately they'd fix it first of all. But if they couldn't fix it on that day, there'd be like 50 signs around it and tape and everything.
Right.
Because if that shit happens in the US, Australia, they'd be suing people for millions of dollars.
Yeah, some people would just fall
Here,
under
if
on
someone
purpose.
fell down and dead, it's like, we'll fill it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's probably almost the number one in terms of infrastructure, is that is just going to look like a completely different world to a lot of you guys. And if you haven't been to like Latin America or something before, be prepared, because this ain't no Kansas anymore.
Yeah, this isn't Kansas anymore. City planning is one of those things that you don't really notice in the United States because roads are built so well. Unless if you're like in a very dense city, for example, like New York, where the roads get congested and there wasn't a lot of planning for overcrowding. Here it seems like there's zero of that. Even in smaller cities, sometimes roads don't even have a sign, like a number or a name, where you don't even know where you're standing sometimes.
I had my first experience of that actually a couple of weeks ago. Me and my girlfriend, we went away to Rio Negro, which is only about 45 minutes to an hour away from here. It's a nice kind of forest area, a bit higher, so it's a bit cooler and obviously much more relaxing. I looked at the Airbnb. I asked her, can you send me the address? She just sends me a point. I'm like, what is this address?
Like she dropped a location?
She dropped a location.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, there's no number or anything. How am I supposed to tell the Uber driver where to go? I look at that spot. I zoom in on the road thinking, hey, I'm going to find the road number. And it just says unnamed road.
Unnamed road.
And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like
the Google car didn't pass through there yet.
But I went there and they just haven't given the road a name. It's a dirt road.
I see.
There's not even a road. It's like rocks.
That's just rocks.
It's like four-wheel driving, Colin McRae rally style. And that brings me to a very important point and one big reason why many people live here. And I personally love Medellin. I've been to more than 40 countries worldwide. And yes, there's cheap places in the world, especially in Asia, but no place is as built up and modern and has such good infrastructure as Medellin does. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think for being what it is, Colombia coming from a very dark past, almost zero tourism. It was a very dangerous place to visit in the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s to where it's at today, where tourism has boomed. The infrastructure is great. You could still do what you need to do, depending on what you do, I guess, for a living. But if you're just using the internet, you're going to the gym, you want a good quality of life, for the cost, this place is amazing.
Yeah, I've been in Indonesia, I've been in Philippines, I've been in Thailand, and all these countries are not as modern and built up and offer the amount of things that Medellin offers. There's just no competition. So if anyone has a place, I'd love to hear it, because I challenge you, you're not going to find something as cheap and as good as this. Like, that kind of equilibrium is unmatched anywhere in the world. And now I have some stats to share with with you. I got stuck in some kind of rabbit hole today, and that's how I found these weird stats. Did you know of the top 45 cheapest countries in the world? I'm going to put the link in the description. But most of them are war-torn or shitholes, for lack of a better word. People are not going there from the US and moving and becoming expats to improve their quality of life, you know?
Yeah.
All the other 45 countries are where you would go to decrease your quality of life. So I would illustrate this by the first 3 countries. Afghanistan, do you want to live there?
No, I don't think so.
Pakistan, you want to live there?
No.
India, you want to live there?
No. Yeah, you're right. I would like to visit those places because I think their food would be
Absolutely.
great. The experience, I guess, would be amazing.
Yeah,
but
sure.
would I want to stay and live there? Not really.
Would you
because-
leave a nice, cushy life in California to go and live in these countries?
No, absolutely not. No.
See what I mean? But would you
Yeah.
do it to live in Medellin?
Yeah, absolutely.
Out of the top 45 countries, Colombia is the only one that I would say anyone would even go to live. Colombia comes in as number 42 on the list. Just after Colombia, so more expensive than Colombia, number 43 is Ethiopia. And what does everyone think of Ethiopia? Everyone thinks this is the poorest place in the world
Yeah,
and cheapest place in the
that's
world.
interesting.
But according to these stats and figures, Colombia is cheaper.
Then Ethiopia, that's crazy. They don't even have utensils.
I think they have utensils.
They eat with their hands.
Do they?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
They have that piece of bread.
Oh, yeah, they have the bread.
and yeah.
Okay, and their food is actually in my top 3 in the world.
yeah, me
Incredible.
too. I love
but they don't eat
Ethiopian.
they never use spoon or nothing?
Well, I don't know. I've never been there,
Oh,
but I
okay.
remember
Any
I had.
Ethiopians, can you let us know? if
Yeah,
you
let
guys-
us know.
Anyway, with that said, what is number 2, my man? US versus Colombia.
The second one is the social versus capitalistic culture. In the United States, it's a very capitalistic country, right? We're a country of consumers. We went from building things and selling them to now importing a bunch of crap from countries that make it for cheaper and buying it. Now everything is based on credit and loans, where in Colombia, we're not so much about capitalism, where it's like, I got to step over the next person to make some money, or I've got to work every single day for 8 to 16 hours to come up and make money and be away from my family. In Colombia, it's more family oriented. Family is the biggest driving factor for a lot of people. They're very close to their family. They love to spend time with their family. In the United States, you may see your parents, even your brothers and sisters, as you get older. You might not see them, more than 3 times a year, right? Christmas, Thanksgiving, and maybe a birthday party. And if you're living out of state, that's even harder because a lot of people don't like to travel during the holidays. Here, especially in Medellin, where we live, people are very tight-knit. Families are tight-knit. Very different than in the United States, where people are very individual. We celebrate individualism, right? Where in Colombia, because of its past and because of the poverty level, where that might not be an opportunity for everybody, the opportunity that everybody has is their family.
And in Colombia, a lot of people might see it kind of as dysfunctional and that don't take things as seriously and don't work as hard maybe
Yeah.
But that's just because they rather have more time for their friends and families and live at a bit of a slower pace of life is slower than it would be in a capitalistic country like the US.
For example, in the United States, it seems like everyone's always in a hurry, from going to university to going to work to getting ahead with a side hustle that you're working on because things are getting expensive. It seems that people just have less time in the United States.
They do have less time.
Yeah. And furthermore, if you want to make plans, let's say you do get time to make plans with friends or family, it almost becomes a big ordeal because you've got to coordinate schedules. You've got to pick a place that you're going to meet at. Then you've got to drive there or take a very expensive Uber. And then you've got to spend money at wherever you're at. And then you got to get back home. Sometimes that even deters people. If it's like, oh, it's a 45-minute Uber ride and it's going to cost me $60
each way.
I'd rather just stay home.
And it feels like in the US, right? Because people are so short on time, time really is money. So if you spend 5 minutes talking to a stranger on the street, that's 5 minutes away from what you could do to further your career, right?
Like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, it's not that easy to just make a friend on the side of the road. But here, very, very often, people just talking to strangers, and maybe even you get someone serving you at the restaurant, you just sit and talk for another 10 minutes more than you should have. Something like that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
people are a lot more open because they don't really care that much about wasting time. So they'll give more time to building connections, or not even building connections. It's not because they look for, hey, what can this person do for me? Or what can that person do for me? It's just like, hey, I have this person in front of me. I want to have this human connection. Why not talk to them for 5-10 minutes? It might never see them again, but hey, it's fun for right now. They live more in the moment, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because even in the United States, let's say you did have time
Yep.
to talk to someone, a stranger, it almost seems weird
Yeah.
to do. It's like, what does this person want? Or leave me alone type
Yeah.
thing. That's kind of the mentality that, unfortunately, the United States has evolved to right now. Where in Colombia, if you go up to somebody and even if someone's just asking you for directions or you're asking for someone, they might just spark up a conversation and tell you, hey, I'll walk with you. I'm going that way. I'll show you where it's at. Or if they're driving, I can drive you there. I can take you there. And that's happened to me on many occasions.
Plenty of interactions like that where you can just get that social interaction that you need for the day. Whereas in the States, you can feel very isolated and lonely because even though you might go to the office or you might be around people all the time, you don't connect with people. Isn't that right?
There's a give and take to everything. And with that more relaxed attitude and friendly attitude, you may not get like the fast service that you were getting in the United States. But, over time, you just get used to it and you learn to appreciate time, right? You learn to appreciate and maybe take advantage of things. For example, if I go to a local place to order lunch or something, I take a book with me. You learn to take advantage of these downtimes when things might be a little slower just because that's the way the culture is here as opposed to the United States. Overall, it's an advantage. And that advantage is having a more stress-free life.
As you guys can see, all these social interactions and the way that people are much more likely to let a stranger into their day or into their personal space to talk about whatever things makes it so much easier to make friends here. You can immediately expand your social circle much more than you could probably in the US and definitely where I'm from in Australia because Americans are actually much more open than Aussies.
Yeah.
Didn't you know that?
I did not know that.
True fact. Now that brings us to number 3 in terms of differences between the US and Colombia. And this one is a huge one. And this is definitely on the top of my list is that people are genuinely friendlier.
If you know anything about Colombia and you've done any research, you'll see that Colombian people are just friendly. They're one of the friendliest people on earth and one of the happiest people on earth on top of that. Whereas in the United States, as you get older, it's harder to meet new people. Here, it's a lot different. The people are friendlier, they're warmer. If you're a foreigner coming out here, it could be very common that you meet someone, they are genuinely interested in you learning about their culture, learning about their country, that they invite you over to dinner.
Yeah.
Invite you over for coffee.
So easy.
Yeah, it's happened countless times. And it's even happened to me, even though I look Colombian, when they realize that I'm not, they take me out. For example, we have a new neighbor downstairs. And one night I was coming home. It was during the NBA playoffs a couple months ago. I was coming home and I was opening the door and they were walking their dog. It was him and his wife. And they're like, hey, Andrew. And I'm like, oh, well, what's up? And they're like, well, what are you doing? It was like a Saturday. They're like, what are you doing? You're just getting home? I'm like, yeah, I was just watching a game. I'm here home. They're like, we're headed to the bar. Come on, let's go. I'm buying. I'm like, okay. So we went to the little bar, got drunk, me and his wife and him. It was us three and their dog. And we're in this bar that plays like techno. And
oh, nice.
It was so funny. Those type of interactions I've had countless times here in Colombia because the people are just genuinely friendlier, like you said, and happier, it seems.
Those kind of things are what makes living in Colombia so special for a foreigner because people see you and they're obviously curious. They want to hear about your stories and whatever.
Yeah.
So I will get invited to many things weekly just because I'm a foreigner and they want to get to know me, right?
Yeah.
So if you come here and you're a friendly person, be expecting that you have a lot of local things to go to. People will be interested in you and you make a lot of friends very fast. Like yesterday, I was going to the tennis court. Uber driver was driving me. We just got started talking and I was like ready to play tennis. So I'm kind of just like thinking about my game, whatever. And he just starts asking me, hey, where you from? What have you been living here for how long? You like it? The general questions.
Yeah.
And we get talking about what he does for a living. He makes sports clothing.
Oh, wow.
And he says he's been doing okay, but he's falling a bit during the pandemic. So I told him, bro, you need to get on Instagram, start making I gave him some tips. And then he was very happy about that.
Nice.
He was like, oh, thanks for giving me all this. Hey, there's a fashion show coming up next week. I want to invite you. I have a stall there. You can come check out my stuff and check out the other stuff too.
Oh, nice.
And just small things like that where people meet you for 5 minutes and invite you and like, hey, this is it. And he's like, here's my Instagram.
If you were a single guy, that would be almost like hitting a little mini jackpot going to a fashion show.
Exactly. So you just invite him
as an
away.
invitee.
And those things happen.
You bring your big camera. You say like, oh, I'm taking pictures, girl.
Exactly.
Pose. If you are coming here and you are not making local friends and making an effort to learn Spanish and broaden your horizon, then you're doing expatting or immigrating, whatever you want to call it, wrong. But on the same time, you're limiting yourself so much.
Yeah.
You can have such a richer experience and can not only contribute to your happiness in your life, but you're also contributing to other people's happinesses in their lives. They don't meet foreigners often and have these deep conversations with them where if you do, you could change their life forever. Like, for example, you gave him tips on Instagram and stuff. That could change his life just a little bit, enough for that, 10 years down the line. If he hadn't talked to that crazy Aussie in his Uber, his Instagram page might have not taken off.
People will take a deep interest in you, and you're going to make so many friends here, and you won't feel lonely. I don't know anyone who comes to Colombia and is like, damn, I'm so lonely here. But in the US, that happens a lot, right? If you're enjoying this video and what we're telling you, visit our website, medellinmasterclass.com, because we have a few spots left. We're basically going to teach you everything that me and Andrew have learned over 15 years combined experience living here in a short 1 month period, so that you're prepared for your move to Colombia. You know all the hacks, you know all the inside information. You'll have a community of like-minded people, because we're vetting everyone who comes, and we're only allowing in the kind of people that vibe with us. Fill out that form. Link is in the description. We'd love to hear from you. Find out if you're suitable for this class, and hopefully work with you too. So the next huge difference between the US and Colombia is efficiency. So if you're coming from the US, everything is easy. You can schedule appointments online. Get basically all your housekeeping things done within minutes. Whereas in Colombia, these small things like banking and everyday tasks can sometimes take weeks.
Utility company, internet companies. It can get tedious. Even though I am fluent in Spanish, I hired an accountant who's been my accountant for years now, just to do that part of the business, because sometimes if I have an internet issue, that call can easily go an hour just to get your internet fixed, or to get someone to come out here the next day, because it's not going to be that very same day. It just takes too much time out of my day to do that kind of stuff. So I have someone that I've hired that takes care of that. She is very efficient, as opposed to some of the companies that should be efficient aren't so efficient. There are many times where you think that something should be done logically, an easier way to do something, where in the United States, that's the easiest way to do it. Here in Colombia, it just might not be done that way. People won't even look at that way. They're like, we can't. This is my job. I'm a robot. I have to do it this way.
You know, people say your money's no good here. In Colombia, your logic's no good here.
Your logic's no good here. Yeah.
Take it back to the US.
You don't like it, go home. There's not a big Karen culture in Colombia, where in the US, everyone feels entitled, right, to good service. I'm paying. I own this shit. I better get the service that I deserve. You have that entitlement. Here in Colombia, the people don't have that entitlement, so there's not a lot of complaining.
You got to just relax it a little bit with your expectations, because it's not going to be that high level of service.
Right.
But it's cheaper than Ethiopia. So.
True.
Anything else on efficiency, Andrew, that we should know about?
Yeah, we were talking about people before and how people are amazing here. They're super friendly and more relaxed. But we were saying that it does come with a give and take. And the take is that things can be less efficient because people work a lot slower here. And on top of that, it seems like creativity isn't encouraged too much, especially in the service industry, where, for example, if you go to a restaurant, there's something on the menu and you tell them, well, I don't eat cheese. Can I substitute the cheese for avocado? They'll look at you with a blank stare and be like, I don't think we can do this. No. Or sometimes they just say no, flat out. To the point where at times I'd talk to managers. I'd be like, well, can I talk to someone in charge and ask them? And then they'll go back and ask and like, oh yeah, he said we could do that. Where the server is so afraid to lose their job that the service just becomes inefficient. It takes longer. People aren't able to resolve problems quickly on the spot, especially in the service industry.
Everything has a give and take. And I feel like that's very important when you look at efficiency, right?
Yeah.
So let's compare the two countries. The US is highly efficient, one of the most efficient and innovative countries in the world, right? With that comes negatives. Everybody's stressed there. Everyone's medicated. Marriages are falling apart. They don't have time for friends. They don't exercise, so they're obese. They're eating the junk food. They're killing themselves slowly with stress. On the other hand, things are not that efficient here. It takes longer to do things, but people are happy. People are healthier. That's a very important point. It's all about what you want. If you want to be the most innovative person of all time and everything to function completely by the inch, centimeter perfect, maybe it's not going to work here.
Maybe Germany or Holland.
Yeah. But if you want to have a less stressful life and have a bit more time to actually connect with humans and enjoy your life, then you might have to be prepared to sacrifice some of that efficiency.
Talking about efficiency and people, I am currently apartment hunting with my sister who wants to move out here, and we've got a story for you. Check out the next video.